Three of America's most powerful food critics sit in a Brooklyn bistro for a televised tasting. A single deep caramel tart is placed before them. The first fork goes in. Howard Blake bites into the deep caramel. His face contorts. He gags, spits into his napkin.
What is this? It's burnt.
Actually burnt. The bitterness is overwhelming.
This is what happens when ambition outpaces skill.
Behind the pass, Sophia doesn't flinch, but her boss, Enzo, bursts through the kitchen doors.
Pack your knives, Sophia. You've shamed my restaurant on national television.
Don't blink. Don't let them see you break.
The television crew packs up, but not before the clip is posted online. The title is Inable. The comments section is already flooded with mockery. By the time Sophia removes her apron, the video has thousands of views and keeps climbing. Her career is finished before midnight. By morning, the clip had 2 million views. The bistro's phone rang with cancellations. Every reservation wiped clean. Sophia packed her knives alone in the dim kitchen, the hum of the walk-in the only sound. She rolled each blade with calm precision. Her phone buzzed on the metal counter. A text from Enzo. Don't bother coming back. Your disaster has killed us. You are done.
A year of 14-hour days, of perfecting that caramel, gone in one bite.
She stepped into the rain. A single white box under her arm, the last tart she'd made that day. The bistro lights blurred behind her. At the empty bar, an older black man in a damp overcoat sat alone. He'd asked quietly for a tart before the cameras arrived. She slid the box toward him.
Thank you, chef.
He left a $5 bill on the counter, the only payment that Tart received that night. He pulled his hood up and stepped into the downpour. Sophia turned the opposite way, the rain soaking through her chef's coat. She didn't look back. Frank settled into the driver's seat, the tart box on the passenger side. He drove slowly, wipers fighting the downpour. 2 blocks later, he pulled to the curb and cut the engine. Rain hammered the roof. For a long moment, he just sat. He lifted the lid. Inside, the deep caramel tart was still faintly warm, the bronze surface gleaming under the streetlight.
This isn't burnt. It's exactly where caramel becomes truth.
His eyes closed. He tasted something he hadn't tasted in 60 years. He pulled out his phone, fumbled with the screen, and opened an old blog account, dormant for years. He wrote for an hour, the rain drumming on the windshield, paragraphs of chemical poetry and memory. Dawn bled through the clouds. He was still writing. The screen, the only light inside the car. Then he pressed publish. The title of the post read, "The most important American dessert of the decade." He leaned back and closed his eyes. Miles away, Sophia lay awake on her couch, scrolling through the night's damage. A notification pinged. The blog post had gone live. Sophia tapped the link, her fingers cold against the screen. The blog loaded slowly, an old design with no images, just words. The headline hit her like a physical blow. The most important American dessert of the decade. She read the opening line. What 3 critics dismissed as burnt is in fact a deliberate bitterness achieved through controlled caramelization at 365 degrees Fahrenheit. Her eyes flew to the bottom. The author signed it, Frank James Beard Foundation Judge, retired, the man from the bar.
The quiet man with the $5. He tasted it, and then he wrote, this.
Her phone erupted. Calls, texts, notifications, a cascade of noise. The machine had reversed direction. She ignored it. Instead, she crossed the room and picked up the old photograph from the dresser. Mae Washington, her grandmother, the first black pastry chef in the White House kitchen. This tart had always been for her.
You would know what to do with this, Grandma. You always did.
The phone kept ringing, but she just stood there, holding the photograph against her chest as the world outside began to shift. By noon, the blog post was on every food channel. Pundits read passages aloud, arguing over the chemistry of bitterness and the integrity of the Beard Foundation. Food critics were now the story.
Get me, Sophia. Offer her double. It was a misunderstanding.
Sophia stared at Enzo's name on the screen. A year of loyalty, of trust, and now a phone call. She let it ring.
Not today, Enzo. Not ever.
The bistro's reservation book, filled within the hour. Every slot sold out through spring, and the phone rang with interview requests. Across the internet, the original clip was recut into a viral meme. The critics' sneers looped endlessly beneath the blog's quotes, their faces frozen in contempt. Frank's post included a chemical breakdown of controlled caramelization. The science silenced most skeptics.
I stand by my assessment. The tart was unapproachable. Palates differ.
I have nothing to say.
But the three critics had not surrendered. Their statements defied Frank, calling him an eccentric old man. The war for public opinion was only beginning. 2 days later, Sophia sat across from a young journalist in a quiet coffee shop. The reporter asked the question everyone was asking.
The bitterness isn't a mistake. It's the point. Controlled caramelization at 365 degrees transforms sugar into something deeper. The critics missed the technique.
That night, Patrick Vance took to his podcast, his voice dripping with contempt.
Frank is a relic who hasn't judged a competition in a decade. This so-called chemical defense is laughable. A burnt tart is a burnt tart.
By morning, Patrick's co-hosts had walked out mid-recording. The clip leaked, and his credibility began to crater. Meanwhile, the Times suspended Howard Blake's column pending review. A formal statement from the newspaper's editor cited factual inaccuracies and unprofessional conduct in his review of Sophia's tart. That evening, a knock on Sophia's door. Enzo stood in the hallway, his face haggard.
I was wrong, Sophia. Come back. I'll triple your salary. The whole city wants to taste your tart.
You fired me by text. Enzo, you didn't even give me the dignity of a conversation. I am not coming back.
Enzo left. Minutes later, Sophia's phone rang again. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. The voice on the other end was gentle but urgent. Frank, the stranger with the $5 bill, asked to meet. Sophia said yes. 40 minutes later, she walked into the Skylight Diner. The neon sign cutting through the evening mist. Frank was already in a corner booth, a small aged leather purse on the table. He nodded as she sat opposite him.
I trained your grandmother, Mae Washington. She was the first black pastry chef in the White House, and I was a junior cook under her. Her caramel recipe, this one, was stolen by the head pastry chef and published under his name in a cookbook. I was there. I stood there and said nothing.
She never told me. All those years. And she kept this secret buried.
Frank opened the leather purse and slid a yellowed, tri-folded piece of paper across the Formica table.
This is the original in her handwriting. I've kept it for 60 years, waiting for someone who would understand.
This tart was never just mine. It's hers.
Sophia's fingers trembled as she read the faded script. The same proportions she had arrived at through trial and error were written there in ink from 1962.
I failed her, Sophia. I was a young black cook in a White House kitchen. If I had spoken up, I would have been fired, so I stayed silent. That silence has lived inside me ever since.
Why are you telling me this now? Why not sooner?
Frank looked down at the recipe card, his thumb tracing Mae's handwriting.
Because your tart is the first thing in 60 years that made me believe this recipe could finally belong to her again. But the world must accept it on its own terms first, not as a stolen legacy, but as a masterpiece.
He's asking me to win this war without the one weapon that could end it. But he's right. If I use it now, they'll dismiss it as a race plea. First, The tart must speak for itself. Then I'll make them taste it. I'll make them understand the chemistry without ever mentioning her name, until they're ready.
We need to find the proof, the cookbook, the dismissal letter, anything that ties the theft to that kitchen. I know where to start looking.
They sat in the diner booth until the late crowd thinned, sketching a plan on a napkin. The critics would be their unwilling jury. When Sophia walked out, the recipe card was pressed flat against her chest inside her coat. The night had shifted, carrying a new weight.
For the first time since that tasting, I have a mission bigger than my own career.
3 days later, Sophia and Frank stood in the hushed archive of the Culinary Institute library. The air smelled of old paper. Frank pulled a heavy black binder from the shelf, a 1963 White House cookbook, its spine cracked with age. He opened to a page near the back. There it was. May's caramel recipe, word for word, under the name Chef Paul Devreau.
He didn't just steal it. He erased her.
Devreau was the executive pastry chef. May was his assistant. After this book was published, she was dismissed from the White House kitchen.
From a box of archived personnel files, Frank lifted a yellowed letter, a formal dismissal, citing insubordination, and signed by Devreau himself. Mrs. Washington is hereby relieved of her duties, effective immediately, for conduct unbecoming a White House employee.
She was fired for a recipe she created. That's what conduct unbecoming meant. They couldn't even name it because it was hers.
Devreau had the power. She was a black woman in 1962. She had no voice. But now we have the proof.
Sophia photographed every page. The stolen recipe, the dismissal, the book's publication date, all of it. The evidence would wait, but it would not be silent forever. That evening, Sophia returned to her apartment. On the television, Patrick Vance was giving an interview, his face flushed with anger.
Frank is a fraud. He hasn't been a judge in 10 years. He probably got paid off. The tart is garbage.
The interview was trending. People began questioning Frank's credibility. Sophia's phone buzzed with messages urging her to respond.
They're trying to kill the messenger. If Frank falls, the tart falls with him.
She called Frank. He answered on the first ring.
I've seen the interview. They can't touch the chemistry, so they're attacking the man.
They're desperate. This means the blog is working. We need to stay the course.
But the smear campaign escalated. Celia Monroe released a video statement, her voice trembling with feigned concern.
I question the integrity of a system that allows a single retired judge to overturn the consensus of 3 established critics.
The hashtag number burnt tart scam began trending. Sophia stared at her phone, the recipe card burning a hole in her pocket. Sophia hunched over her laptop, scrolling through the photographs from the library. The evidence folder was organized, but something nagged at her. She froze on a document she had barely noticed, a personnel memo typed on White House letterhead, dated February 1962. Mr. Frank is hereby promoted to interim pastry chef, assuming all duties of Mrs. May Washington, effective immediately.
He took her job. He stayed silent, and then he took her job.
An hour later, Frank sat across from her in the same diner booth. His face had aged 10 years.
I was promoted, yes. After May was dismissed, I was the only qualified black candidate. I didn't ask for it, but I didn't refuse either. I've wrestled with that shame for 60 years. I told myself it was survival, but it was betrayal.
You let me believe you were just a bystander. You were the beneficiary.
I know. That's why I never came forward. I am not a hero, Sophia. I am a coward who kept her recipe alive the only way I could.
Sophia looked at the old man across the table, the weight of his guilt and her grandmother's legacy pressing down on her. The path forward was now clouded.
We can't hide this, Frank. The full truth is the only weapon that will end this war.
If we tell them I benefited from her dismissal, They'll destroy us both. The Tart will be forgotten.
If we don't, the smear campaign will win anyway. May's legacy deserves better than silence.
Who would even listen now? Every network is afraid of the critics.
Maya, the podcast host who interviewed me weeks ago. She's been waiting for the real story.
Frank stared at the recipe card on the formica table. The hum of the diner filled the silence.
If we do this, I'll have to confess everything. The silence, the promotion. I am ready.
Then, let's set a date. In 2 weeks, we'll sit in that studio and tell May's story.
Outside the Skylight Diner, the neon flickered. Sophia walked toward her car, the night air sharp with purpose.
There's no turning back now. The world will finally know who created the tart.
2 weeks passed. Sophia and Frank rehearsed their story in her apartment, the recipe card a talisman between them. Outside, the critics' smear campaign grew louder. Then, a registered letter arrived. The return address a law firm in Washington. You are hereby ordered to cease and desist from any public claim that the caramel tart recipe belongs to May Washington or her descendants. Violation will result in immediate litigation.
They're trying to silence us with a lawsuit before we can speak a single word.
She video called Frank, holding the letter up to the camera.
That's Paul DeVroe's grandson. He's a corporate lawyer. He knows exactly what we have.
If we back down now, May's recipe is dead forever. I won't let that happen.
That night, the hashtag number Maystart began trending. An anonymous account had posted snippets of the 1962 cookbook and the dismissal letter. Public interest ignited. The morning before the podcast, a courier delivered a thick envelope from the James Beard Foundation. Inside, a nomination letter for Outstanding Pastry Chef.
It's all connected now. Either we land everything or we crash. But at least May's name will finally be spoken.
The podcast studio buzzed with tense energy. Maya stood at the console, her headphones around her neck. We're on in 2 minutes, she said, eyes flicking to the clock.
You both received a cease and desist from DeVroe's lawyer. Once we say this on air, there's no taking it back. You are certain? Certain. May's truth is worth any lawsuit. We didn't come here to whisper.
The producer's hand counted down through the glass. 3, 2, 1. The on-air light blazed red.
Today on the show, a 60-year-old theft at the heart of American pastry. Chef Sophia, tell us about your tart. This tart was never only mine. It was created in 1962 by my grandmother, May Washington, the first black pastry chef in the White House. It was stolen and published under another name.
I was in that kitchen. I watched it happen and said nothing. Then I took her job. I've carried that shame for 6 decades.
The chef who stole it, Paul DeVroe, had May fired the same month. We have the documents, and his grandson is now threatening to sue us for telling the truth.
Within the hour, the podcast episode crashed the server. Number. My Start trended worldwide as listeners shared the story, their outrage drowning the critics' defenses. The critics' phones rang unanswered. The legal threat still loomed, but the world had already chosen its side. Sophia held the recipe card and smiled. 2 days later, Patrick Vance took to a fringe video platform. His rant was unhinged, his face distorted by rage. The system protects thieves. The stream cut out. His account was permanently suspended. Celia Monroe deleted all her accounts, leaving behind only a single line on a forgotten blog. I was wrong. No apology, no retraction, just silence. Howard Blake's forced resignation was announced by the newspaper. The same column that had dismissed the tart now ran a full retraction, citing editorial failure. The DeVroe law firm filed the suit. The complaint arrived in a thick envelope, demanding damages and a permanent gag on May's name. That evening, a call from Italy. Luca Fabbri, a renowned Modena restaurateur, had read the story and wanted Sophia to consult on his new pastry menu. All expenses paid for 2 months.
Modena is everything I dreamed of. But if I leave now, Frank faces this lawsuit alone.
Go, Sophia. This case will crawl through courts for months. Your absence will make a statement. You are bigger than their threats.
I am not running from a fight, but I'll go. And when I come back, I'll win the beard for May.
She booked a flight for Saturday. On her calendar, the James Beard ceremony in May was circled in red. The critics were silenced. The lawsuit loomed, but for the first time since that rainy night, Sophia felt the weight begin to lift. Sophia landed in Modena on a pale spring morning, her knife roll in a carry-on, and the recipe card tucked inside her coat. The air smelled of espresso and aged Parmesan.
Chef Sophia, benvenuta a Modena. The whole city is talking about your tart. Thank you for coming.
That afternoon, she stood in Luca's gleaming kitchen, demonstrating the caramel technique to a rapt group of young chefs. The tart emerged from the oven, its bronze surface flawless.
The bitterness isn't a mistake. It's the result of precise heat, exactly 365 degrees. That line between sweet and smoke is where the magic lives.
A local food journalist leaned forward in a pastel cafe. Is it true that this recipe belonged to your grandmother, and it was stolen? Sophia set down her espresso.
The story is hers. The proof is in the archive. My job now is to bring her technique to the world. The courts can handle the rest.
That evening, in her small apartment above the restaurant, Sophia pinned a photo of May next to the wall calendar. The James Beard date was circled in red, 10 weeks away.
The lawsuit is moving forward. DeVrose's lawyers are demanding a gag order, but the public support is overwhelming. Keep making the tart, Sophia.
Every tart I make here is a piece of evidence. By the time I step onto that beard stage, the whole world will know.
She typed a single message back to Frank. We'll finish this together. Then she stepped into the moonlit kitchen to prepare tomorrow's dough. 3 weeks before the beard ceremony, a thick envelope arrived at Sophia's Modena apartment. A court summons, ordering her to appear in New York for a deposition in the DeVrose suit on the same day as the awards.
They didn't just sue. They're trying to keep me off that stage.
She called Frank. In the bright Modena kitchen, with a tray of tarts cooling, his voice crackled through the speaker.
The judge won't move the date. If you miss that deposition, they'll get a default judgment gagging May's name forever.
The ceremony is that night. If I am in a courtroom all day, I might not make it to the gala.
Then you'll go straight from the courthouse to the stage. You've fought too long to let them steal this moment.
Sophia, your work here is already legendary. Go home and win. Modena will be waiting.
Sophia nodded, then turned to the calendar. She crossed out the circled beard date and wrote beside it in black marker. Deposition, 9 a.m., gala, 7 p.m.
May wasn't afraid of a courtroom or a kitchen. Neither am I. I'll be there.
That night, she prepared her final batch of tarts for Luca's kitchen, then packed her knife roll. The recipe card she placed inside her coat pocket. The morning of the beard ceremony, Sophia stood in a Brooklyn courtroom, the recipe card and the 1963 cookbook laid on the table before the judge.
My grandmother May created this recipe in 1962. It was stolen and published under another name. The proof is in front of you.
Frank appeared via video link from a small room in the courthouse, his voice thin but steady. The judge examined the dismissal letter and the cookbook's publication date. After a long pause, he spoke. The motion for a gag order is denied. Historical truth cannot be silenced by litigation. Sophia rushed from the courthouse into a waiting car. In the back seat, she pulled her black gown from a garment bag and changed as the driver sped across the bridge. At the red carpet, Frank stood in his tuxedo. When he saw her, he simply nodded and took her arm. Inside, Howard, Celia, and Patrick watched the ceremony on a monitor In a private room, their faces hollow, the screen's glow the only light. The presenter stepped to the microphone. And the James Beard Award for Outstanding Pastry Chef goes to Sophia Washington.
This medal is for May Washington. Her recipe was stolen, her name erased. Tonight, we speak it.
The standing ovation thundered for 3 full minutes. Sophia stood center stage, holding the recipe card above her head, tears streaming. The next morning, every major newspaper carried the same image, Sophia with the medal, the recipe card in frame, and the headline, "Stolen Tart Wins Beard."
I am not proud of my silence, but I am proud of May. Her recipe is finally home, and I can finally say I helped bring it back.
The interview clip exploded. Number May's Tart trended worldwide again, and a petition calling for May's induction into the Culinary Hall of Fame surged past 200,000 signatures. By noon, the DeVroe law firm withdrew the lawsuit and issued a formal apology, acknowledging that the historical record must be corrected for the Washington family. In her apartment, Sophia pinned the James Beard Medal to the frame of May's photograph. She touched her grandmother's cheek and whispered. That evening, the National Food Critics Association expelled Patrick Vance permanently for gross ethical violations and abuse of professional influence. Howard Blake's final column was a mea culpa. I let ambition blind my palate. Sophia's tart taught me humility. He announced his retirement.
I was wrong, deeply wrong. I allowed prejudice to cloud my judgment. I am stepping away from food criticism to reflect.
That night, Sophia and Frank walked the Brooklyn Bridge, the city lights a quiet glow behind them. Frank said, "She would be so proud." Sophia replied, "She is." 3 days after the ceremony, Sophia sat in her apartment, the medal and recipe card before her. An envelope from Frank had arrived, thick and heavy. Inside the package, a letter from Frank, and beneath it, a smaller, yellowed envelope addressed in May's handwriting. Sophia read Frank's note aloud. "I've kept this unsent letter from May for 60 years. She wrote it after the dismissal, but never gave it. I think it was always meant for you." Sophia opened the small envelope. May's words were steady. "Dear Frank, I forgive you. You did what you had to, but don't let my recipe die. With love, May."
She knew he would carry that guilt, and she forgave him before he even asked.
Sophia placed May's letter inside the frame, next to the photograph and the medal. 3 proof of a legacy now unerasable.
I have the letter, Frank. She forgave you. Now you can forgive yourself.
Miles away, Frank read the text in his quiet apartment. His shoulders shook, and for the first time in 60 years, he let himself weep without shame. The next morning, in a small empty storefront in Brooklyn, Sophia pinned May's original recipe card to the exposed brick wall. The dust drifted in the dawn light. She turned to the front windows. The morning light caught her silver crescent earring, and she smiled. On the bakery's first morning, an older black woman walked in before the sign was hung. She studied the tart in the case and asked softly, "What do you call it, chef?"
May's tribute.
The woman lifted the fork. The bite stilled her. Her eyes closed, then opened wet, and she set the fork down without a single word. Sophia reached across the counter and took her hand. They held that silence together, the tart cooling between them. By noon, the line stretched past the laundromat. Every hour, Sophia called out for more tarts from the back. On the brick wall, May's photograph and the recipe card hung beside a small plaque. Est, 1962, reclaimed 2023. Every customer stopped to read. A little girl in a yellow coat pointed at the photograph. "Who's that?" Sophia knelt beside her.
My grandmother, May. She was the first black pastry chef in the White House. This tart is hers.
The mother slid a folded note into the tip jar. Sophia didn't open it until after close. It was a 50 beside the words, "Thank you for telling her story." At dusk, Sophia turned the open sign over. She touched the recipe card with 2 fingers and said quietly, "We did it, May. It's your bakery now." 3 evenings later, Frank appeared at the bakery door as Sophia was wiping down the counter. He carried a small velvet box.
It belonged to May. I've kept it since 1962.
He opened the box. Inside lay a small silver spoon, etched with the initials MW. She used it every day in the White House kitchen. Frank whispered,
I remember this. She had one just like it. She said it was lost.
It was never lost. I took it after she was dismissed. As a reminder, I should have returned it long ago.
Sophia turned the spoon over. The handle was worn smooth by decades of caramel stirring.
She stirs through me, Frank. Every batch of caramel. I feel her.
They stood in the empty bakery, the spoon and the recipe card side by side on the counter. The silence was full. When Frank left, Sophia faced the wall of photographs. She placed the spoon beside May's frame and whispered,
We did it, May. We got your spoon back. Your recipe, your name. It all starts again tomorrow.